Hi friends. So this video is going to be a short, quick run through, hopefully, about 3D models and using them in Clip Studio Paint. So I'm not an expert in this, but I've used it enough that I feel comfortable kind of showing you. First place I would start is the Clip Studio Asset Library, and you're going to find, so this is free 3D models, and you can see that there's really cool things like shoes, buildings, backgrounds, guns, all sorts of crazy things, motorcycles. You can download all of these just like you would brushes or anything else in Clip Studio. So there's lots of options, and there's lots of adult options, so please keep that in mind as I'm searching. There just happens to be a lot of those. So let's look first at, the first one we looked at was 3D object. That's what we just were looking at. But there's other sections such as, let's look at poses. So you might want to try looking through the poses, especially for poses that are very difficult. I love using these models for certain poses that are just really hard to draw, especially kind of like sitting, squatting sort of poses are often difficult. I've definitely downloaded ones that have characters shooting a bow and arrow because I always find those challenging as well. So I happen to find what I'm looking for on here. So you don't need to search just by popular. You can type in things in here. So if I type in, let's just type in arrow and see if I find like an archer pose. Yeah, so yes, amazing. So if you're looking for something in particular, definitely search, use that in your search engine to find it. So there you go. So let's look at also, we can search by body shape. So in here, oops, I didn't click it. Body shape. Okay, so for 3D models, we also have lots of options for different types of bodies. They're generally pretty generic. Hoping with time they get a little bit more like fleshed out a little bit better. But in general, it's really good, especially to have like female bodies and male bodies. I know I've downloaded some beefy boy bodies, but they do look a little weird. But we do have those. And this one, I've never actually downloaded any, but maybe I'll try this soon. They have characters. So they have like specific characters that are more kind of fleshed out here. So I'll have to try some of these sometime because I think it'd be fun just to experiment. So you have these to play with as well. So download some from the Clip Studio Asset Library, and you're going to see them in Clip Studio. So you're going to find them in the materials section. And that's where the download stuff is at. So you're going to look for a folder. It looks like a folder icon. If you don't see it, just go to Window, go to Material. You're going to see these are the ones Clip Studio has by default. There are some defaults like body types and things like that in here. I believe at the bottom we have just a kind of generic male and female. We have some primitive shapes like squares, cubes, circles. So there are a few by default, but you're going to notice as you kind of click through, like I've never downloaded a panorama and there is none by default. So you're going to have to search on the asset library for a lot of stuff. All right, so let's start with a character. I always recommend starting with body type first. I happen to have my settings as like a female by default. But whatever body type you choose, you can place a pose on top of that. So let's grab one to start. I'm going to grab this one and just literally just drag it and drop it onto your canvas. And there you go. There's your model. So first thing you should know is that you can manipulate your model yourself. If I were to just run my finger across the screen, it's going to be able to pan around this character, and we can see it from all sorts of angles. And yep, and if I touch if you touch the character, you will move the character. So let me be more specific and not do it by accident. So let's start with the head. So I'm going to click his head, and you're going to see that there's these different lines, and this is how you can kind of rotate your elements in certain directions. You can also just kind of grab a piece and kind of swirl it around, and you're going to get, it's going to do things. A lot of times I'll accidentally make my characters do dances because I accidentally grab their legs while I'm trying to zoom around. So anytime you goof up, you can just undo and it'll go back to the last thing you did. Or if you goof up a lot, you can literally just hit the garbage can and it will erase it. So let's grab another model here. So I'm going to show you, you're going to see at the top there's this blue icon toolbar, and at the bottom there's this gray toolbar icon. The blue one at the top is going to be really helpful for kind of also panning around your character. So the first three you're going to see are little camera icons, and that's literally just going to be adjusting the camera angle. So the first one just kind of is a pan about, kind of just like moving your finger around. The second one here is going to be just kind of you're moving around, so you can kind of move like you're moving your view up and down, around, things like that. The third one's going to be zoom in and out. So I can do this, and then I can pan up, and there we go. So you can kind of position where your character fits on your canvas. The ones next to it are literally going to be changing, let me zoom back out here. They're going to be changing how the character is posed. So as you can see, I'm kind of moving it around. There's a grid kind of representing the ground. If I were to kind of use that same sort of like arrows, directionals, but with the box instead of the camera, you're going to see now I can flip my character around in different ways. So you can use those, and yeah, so you can experiment with those. Most of the times, since my characters are standing on the ground, I just like to move the camera about. It really only matters if you're using the ground as like to see the shadow on the floor. Otherwise, I mean, generally, if you're moving your character around, but then you're just moving your screen around, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's just up to you, however you want to do it. So those are very fun. So let's start next with looking at some poses. So I'm going to go over to my poses. I have a bunch downloaded here. Let me find a really cool one. Let's do here. We got like a cute girl pose. So I'm just going to drag this, and you're going to see now I have the same body type character in this pose. And I can try out different ones. I can still manipulate them. So if there's something I don't like, I want my character to be looking a certain way, I want this leg to be a certain way, you can mess around and play around with it. We can try, let's see, if I grab a body type that has a boy, I think it should still stay as the same girl character doing the pose. Yeah, so because because whatever you pick as your body type, that's going to kind of be the default. So the poses, you can throw any pose you want, even if it looks like a boy in the little sample. There you go. So very fun to experiment and play with. Download bunches of them, and hopefully it helps you, because yeah, these poses to me, oops, I do that a lot. Some of these poses, like, yeah, I feel like this would be a really difficult pose for me to get right without some kind of reference. So definitely helpful, but we can change even more things. So I'm going to close my layers window here so we can kind of see better. So at this gray bar at the bottom, a lot of these I don't mess around with these too much, but we have little like settings. It's a little, it looks like a little wrench that'll open up some of the settings here. And we can kind of click through here, and we're going to see lots of different options. So looking at 3D drawing figure, you're going to see that we have some like almost like a video game character creation body types. We can kind of adjust how our character looks. So don't think that just because you picked one body type, it cannot be changed. You can change that. You can change how big the head is. It's always very funny. You can change the height of the character if you wanted. So if you got a tall character and a short character, you can kind of mess with that. We've got lots of options here we can change the outline so if we want to just kind of get a general idea of how, like the basic silhouette of the character, something like that might be very helpful to you. Let's just reset that. This is my favorite one. It's the light source. So I personally have a really, really hard time imagining light sources. So we can use this little ball here and just kind of like move it around, and you can see now we're kind of changing where the light is coming from. So this really helps me a lot when I am having a hard time deciding where my light source is going to be. Obviously, your character is going to probably have more details, so it's not going to be like there's no hair here, clothes, obviously, and that might affect how your shading is, but for the most part, it's a good starting point. We can also change the colors of this if that kind of helps you. Let's use a yellow and maybe like this. So we can kind of add some colors to that, and we can change the intensity. whatever is fun to do. So definitely mess around with this yourself. It's just kind of really fun and helpful, hopefully. So the last thing I want to cover before we move on is, let me open up my layers again. Let's delete this. That you can have backgrounds. So I have a bunch downloaded here. So same as before, I'm just going to click it and drag it and drop it on my canvas, and voila. And same as the poses, I can move the camera around. We can zoom in and out. This sort of thing is super helpful, especially when you're doing comics or just something, anything with a scene. Placing your character in an environment and using this as like a reference, amazing. I love this stuff. I love using 3D models. And a lot of times I like to find 3D models online, take screenshots, but this is even better because you kind of can manipulate it in the program really easily. So definitely go download objects and backgrounds, mess around with it. Anything that's going to help you make your life easier, mess around with it and play. So I hope this was a good, just kind of general run through for 3D things in Clip Studio. And good luck and have fun.